Hello from ChinaNature.com. This is Mark Josie. Today I would like to do this little video to tell you guys the difference between PCP guns and HPA guns. So all of you may have heard of these terms already, and when you think about PCP guns, it's always the expensive air rifles and stuff like that. And so it's like the precharged pneumatic guns. So here's an example of a PCP rifle, the Air Arm S200. It's a target rifle, and oh, by the way, just a little update here. It used to be a single shot rifle, and I just modified it with this add-on to make it a repeater. So this is a repeater magazine that you have to install in here, and then all you do is you can take out the clips, load it up, and put it back in. So that's really cool, and I like the add-on so much. Instead of having to like put my finger through this little gap between the scope and this part to put the pellet in, right now you can just shove in a rotary magazine and you got like 12 shots or 10 shots there. So it's a very good modification. Anyway, so all these guns, okay, they are PCP rifled, and the difference, one biggest difference is the tank is always best to be stored pressurized, meaning that you have to fill up the tanks and store them with air. And usually we don't store the guns like when they're emptied or like that. Like usually with CO2 guns, you'll want to empty the CO2 after using the guns, or with so like that. So these they are best to store with air inside and filled to the top, like to the maximum pressure you want to go. So usually we fill them up to 200 bars, which is about 2,900 psi, or about 3,000 psi. And so you store them with air, and that's the best way to keep the guns in great, like optimal condition. If you store them without air and you empty the gun and you don't pump it back up, then your gun will develop a leak very soon, and that's how PCP guns will fail. So always charge the gun up after using, or at least like make sure that it have enough air inside. And these guns, okay, you screw the tank on and keep the air in there. When you need to fire it, all you do is just cock the bolt and fire, or some will just pull the trigger and fire. It's very easily operated, and there's not much stuff to do with it. So what you do, what controls the power is usually the hammer spring, and so when you release the hammer, that spring give whatever power to strike the valve, and it will release the amount of air that comes out. So when people want to detune the guns, usually they change the hammer spring, or they make it stronger, whatever, so that it give different results with the power. Okay, so that's PCP guns. As you know, you pre-charge the air inside, and usually you use air like from a hand pump or from a fill station with nitrogen. Okay, so usually it's that kind of stuff, and they're all pre-charged. So that means whenever you need it, pick it up and you can go shooting, and it won't leak, won't whatever. Okay. Another example of a PCP is target rifles or target pistol. This one here is very high end, and let me show you around. Just let me unlock this thing. Okay. Ta-da. Okay, there we go. Okay, this is the Piccolo P11. This thing here, okay, it comes with a air tank that's so small, and you see there's a pressure gauge there. Okay, so you fill this thing up with air, and as you can see right now, it's filled almost to the maximum, the red spot, you see. Okay, so basically you fill this up with air and you screw it into the gun and use it. A lot of PCP guns have a pressure gauge on there, so you can check how much air you still have inside the gun. Unlike CO2, that you cannot even tell how many CO2 you still have inside the gun, or if you use a 12 gram CO2, you can't even know if the CO2 is emptied or not. So it's basically some guess and check and stuff like that. So usually you count, I shot like 50 shots, so that should be the end of the CO2, that kind of stuff. With PCP guns, you don't guess. There's a pressure gauge, and you see how many air you still have. But that's one thing I really like about PCP guns. Anyway, so what about HPA? Okay, HPA and PCP is actually very similar. HPA actually means high pressure air, and high pressure air is generated by you using a hand pump or a electric pump, stuff like that. Okay, so you may think, oh, can I use the compressor like you can buy in Home Depot and stuff like that to just pump up my gun? No, you can't. those stuff are generating pressure that is about 160 psi to 120 psi, and the filling pressure that we need for the pressure, like these guns, are going up to 2,700 psi or even 3,000 psi, and so you cannot fill the guns with that kind of compressor. But then there's a shoebox thing, like something called a shoebox, that is like a little thingy that you attach to those compressor, and they will keep pressing air into the guns or the tanks with that shoebox. And it costs about 1 point something K, so it's a very expensive compressor. Anyway, besides that, we use hand pumps to pump the PCP. But for HPA, high pressure air, usually HPA operated guns, you want to keep the guns not pressurized, but the tanks, the HPA tanks, need to be pressurized. So an example of a HPA tanks right here. Okay, I got a holster for it. This is a Ninja tank, 13 CI cubic inch, and also on all the tanks there are there is a pressure gauge and the regulator inside. Usually these tanks come with a regulator, and the regulator controls the amount of air coming out of the tank when you use it inside the gun. So it provides a very consistent amount of pressure all the time for your shots. But then while you're using it inside the gun is all pressurized inside. So that means that you don't want to store those guns with the tank screwed into the gun and pressurize the gun for a long time. Okay, so here you go. You have this hole, the top, which is where air comes out and goes to the gun, and so you screw this into the gun and air comes from here into the gun, and the gun also have a regulator or air reservoir, and then the hammer punch that valve inside the gun to release the air inside the gun and not from here. So the hammer doesn't punch here and goes outside. Okay, so here, as you can see right here, you take away this little plastic cap. Okay, it's a protection cap. This is the filling nipple. You connect this to a hose, and the hose is from the hand pump, so you can keep pumping air into the tank. And here you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You fill that up to 3, which is 3,000 psi, and the tank is full. So of course, the bigger your tank is, the longer it takes to fill to the number 3 mark, because 3,000 psi inside a big tank and a small tank is different, right? It's different amount of air. And also, these Ninja tanks, they come with a regulator and all that stuff, so they're usually coming standard with about 850 psi output, and they are like very close to the CO2 output. So for a lot of guns in airsoft or paintball, they use these tanks to replace CO2. Okay, and also you can get a tank pouch, which people hook it up on the belt, and they can use a remote line to power up the guns. And it is also good to have a bigger tank like this. This one is a huge tank. Okay, 48 cubic inch. Okay, it's a bigger tank than the other one, and this is also regulated at 850 psi by standard. And for some guns, they need a higher pressure, like beside the 850 psi. Okay, they want a higher pressure. So here we go. We have a 1000 psi tank. Okay, let me get this tank out and show you. Okay. This is a whoa, huge, eh? Okay, whoops. Okay, this is, let me find that number. Okay, 62 cubic inch. I'm not sure if you can see that on the camera. Okay, this is 62 cubic inch, 62, and it took me a long time to fill it up, but then it's really worth the while, because if you're using it a lot, okay, you want a big tank so that you have a lot of shots. And also this is filled to the 3000 psi as well. Okay, and here you can see it said not for paintball. Okay, and then here you see 1000 psi. So this is the regulator, and showing us that it's regulated to output at 1000 psi, which is higher than the usual paintball usage psi level. So all the output pressure, how much air is coming out, it's all determined by the regulator, the tank, and so on. And one good thing is you can also see if there's a leak or not, because there's a pressure gauge. So you get, if it's leaking, you see the air keeps dropping, right? So it's very obvious. Okay, so for example, HPA guns. This is the Scarab Arm TGR2 that I just got recently. So let's take a look. Okay, just a second. First, you have the gun itself. Okay, and then you see right here, it's where you screw the tank in. So until you screw the tank in, the gun won't function, and you cannot even cock the bolt and fire the gun, because nothing will happen. It needs that the tank to screw in for the gun to work. And when the tank is screwed in, the gun is pressurized, and now you can fire the gun. So the package comes with a tank in stock option. This is actually a 13 CI tank that they come with. Okay. So same thing as the Ninja, but this one is slimmer. You take off here, and basically you just go like that, and you turn it inside. Okay. Not going to pressurize this gun now, but you can see it. Okay. So right now you just put the tank inside, and now you can shoot. But after the shooting session, unlike the PCP guns, you need to unscrew this out. Okay, you need to take it off and store it with the gun separately. And even the manual tells you that you need to store it separately. And so that's the main difference between the PCP and the HPA guns. HPA guns, like paintball guns, they need to be detached from the tank when you're done using it. And when you're using it, the gun is all pressurized for a short amount of time, you know, like not pressurized for 24 or more hours. You usually just pressurize it when you're playing with it, and when you're done, you unscrew the tank out, and that's it. For PCP, it's always stored with the with the air ready to fire. So if you have a PCP laying around, you can expect that you can always just pick it up and pull the bolt, and you can fire. So yeah, it's kind of like saying which one is the better. Okay, I would say that PCP guns are better for always ready, and they're low maintenance. They don't require much maintenance actually, and you don't even need to oil them. Like usually what you do is just you pump the gun up and keep it like that all the time, and that's it. For the HPA guns, it requires a bit more maintenance. You need to take the tank out, fill the tank, and also clean the gun, and so on. For the PCP, you don't need to. Usually you just fill them up and use it, fill them up and use it. That's all you do. And so that's the main difference between the PCP and the HPA. So for a lot of guns, especially for the Droz Blackbird, you want to have HPA set up on it, because the Droz Blackbird eats gas so fast, and also by using different pressure level output with the HPA tank, you get higher power or lower power, and you can decide. So basically it's kind of fun with the tanks too, but sometimes you just need a remote hose to connect to the gun if they don't come with a tank in stock option, and so it's kind of clumsy. for the PCP guns, it's all very custom-made tank. Like this one, the tank look like part of the gun, and it's all together in one piece. So it's much nicer looking and always ready to fire. So yeah, PCP guns, they cost a lot, and they're worth the money too because of the design and look and all that. So you don't have to really like show people, oh, I have a tank here and it looks badass, right? So you don't have to show people that you have a tank because the tank looks just like part of the gun itself. So that's basically the main difference. And for hunting rifles, they're almost all used with the PCP style and not the HPA tank style. So basically that's a little lecture for the PCP and HPA. Thank you for watching. Remember to subscribe and like. Bye bye.